Hello and welcome back to the tour. Finally on the roads of France, in the north of France today. Racing to Calais, a city I've actually had the pleasure of being in once. It's the docking point for those who take the ferry from Dover. So it's a crossing point that now many don't have to take anymore with the channel. But the tour is starting in France after a very exciting time spent in Denmark. So this is the second to last climb of the day I'm painting here now. And speaking of Denmark, a Danish rider who I'm about to start drawing right now, Magnus Kort, has won every climb of the tour thus far. And apparently now he has set a new record, having, with this climb that I'm painting, of course drawing right now, but will be eventually painting. With this climb, he will have taken the first 10 climbs of the tour, something that's never happened before. The previous record set back the year after I was born, so quite some time ago. That record was 5 climbs, and he's now at 10 climbs, so I can't imagine that record ever being beat. I'm also thrilled to say that Magnus has already purchased one of the paintings of himself, the first that I did. He had messaged me through Twitter, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm Art of Cycling on Twitter. And he's been, initially Anthony Perez was going to try to out-sprint him on a couple of the climbs, or the first climb, but quickly realized, or once he couldn't out-sprint him, he was like, yeah, I'll let him have it. And so sort of this agreement that happens in a breakaway. So clearly Magnus was out here trying to build his lead and was going to fight for it. So then Perez backed off and let him have the climbs. I always hate it when I drop the pen like that. Oh well. So then when they got to the sprint point, of course, Magnus let Anthony go ahead and claim that prize. So they sort of share out the prizes. And that sharing out and sort of that cooperation then helps ensure that the two will continue to work together. So they have, at one point, had a 7-minute lead over the rest of the peloton. But now, as we're getting close to the finish of the stage and setting up for another sprint, the peloton is coming back pretty quickly. So just sort of, these are the boards along the side that will have the sponsor of the particular jersey's logo on it. Not quite a huge crowd on the top of this climb. Most of the other climbs have been a rather large collection of cycling fans, but not this one. So that's the sketch. Here, we'll call this record breaking. So now we'll start laying in the color. My brush is hidden here under the other previous paintings. So as always, I'm going to look for what's going to be yellow and then work my way through the light warm colors. Warm colors being what you would associate with the colors of fire, so yellows and reds, oranges, and I'll use those first, and that sort of helps guarantee that I don't get a muddy, oh, one more area of yellow, don't muddy the colors, because that's the thing, as you mix contrary colors, you can end up with mud. So, you know, if you want to make a good brown tone, one way to do that is to take the complement. So if you wanted to make a nice brown, a gray brown, you could take red and green, and you'd actually get a very nice grayish brown. So we're now getting a little bit of the, so that's a field, and then this is a roof here. And then we'll move on to the flesh tones. Again, there are a few riders of color in the tour this year. Both Eritrean, African, but they haven't really made their presence known yet. But that's the thing, you know, it's like a lot of the, I haven't painted a lot of the favorites of the tour yet, because it is early days and they don't want to spend energy, so they don't appear on the front of the peloton. They don't want to spend any more energy than they need to, so they, you know, there's this weird thing, there's like, they're doing really well because you don't see them. And one of the things, if like one of the favorites is having trouble and drops off the back of the peloton, the cameras will go find them and show them to you. So it's this, in the early part of the tour, it's this weird thing where if you don't see them, they're doing great. And you don't want to be seen because you don't want to expend any energy. I mean, this is a 21 days of racing. And I think they must have very carefully picked this, because the race is 3,333 kilometers. I can't believe that would have been an arbitrary number. So you want to conserve as much energy as you can. I mean, obviously, it's a lot of hard work regardless, but you want to spend as little time out in the wind or chasing, or, you know. So the first couple of days are the days for somebody like Magnus to go out and get the polka dot jersey, for sprinters to have their day, sprinting for stage victories. And so it's, some people think that it's, I mean, I know people who don't even start watching the tour until the second week, or know of people. In fact, although that I watched every stage, when I first started painting the tour, I didn't start painting till about stage 7 or 8. I can't quite remember now, because it was 2012 when I started painting the tour. But I was sitting there watching the tour and kind of going, this is a little bit sinful, just sitting here watching TV in the middle of the day. And my brilliant wife came up with the idea, well, why don't you just paint the tour, post the stuff on Facebook back then, and see if you can sell them. So as you can see, I've got this nice sweep of the angle just as they crest over, and that's accentuated by the polka dots. And now also, speaking of the complementary, I can think it, but I can't say it, complementary colors of red and green. So we're going to lay some greens in now for the trees and brush along the side of the road. And that these greens will help make the reds pop even more, because your eye is naturally looking for the complementary colors. So if you got a lot of red and you want to make that red seem brighter, you lay in a little green next to it. And of course, obviously the opposite would apply. If you want to make your green seem more intense, lay in red. And then I'm slowly, like, just as I said with the warm to cool, I'm also light to dark. So I'm mixing my greens, and each is less yellow, more blue, or darker greens. And one of the things with watercolors is, like, these areas are white, so you want to be cognizant of that, because you don't paint white. Everything is pigment and paper. And so if you want an area of white, you have to plan for that and leave the paper showing. And also the other way is, like, you want a lighter color. Now, those light, bright greens are also more water, less pigment, and that makes them lighter in value as well. So there's a whole lot of pieces to making a successful watercolor in this sort of intuitive pre-thought. I kind of do it intuitively because as I said, I've been painting bike racing since 2012. So sort of got that laid in now. Now I want to come back and create my black. And again, I don't like to use, ivory black or any produced black. So I'm taking this purple and now this dark green, and when I mix those two together, now I got a little bit too much green, so I'm going to add a little more purple to it. And that gives me my black. And again, just like the others, if I want it to be more gray, then I'll add more water and black. So like why I just tapped the napkin there, the paper towel, was to get some of the water off of the brush. And that made it less gray, more black. So also another thing that happened, not only did Magnus buy a painting of himself, but his team, EF Education, actually no, yeah, EF Education, Easy Post is the sponsors of the team. They, when they tweeted out their thanks to the Danish fans for such a great part of the tour in Denmark, they used a retweet of one of my paintings of Magnus to illustrate their thanks. He happened to be waving to all the fans as he went over a hill. So it was a appropriate image, but that was just such a high compliment. And of course that painting and all of the previous paintings of Magnus have sold, and all have gone to Denmark. So if you are interested in seeing all the works that I've painted thus far, you can go to my blog at theartofcycling.blogpost.com. And then all the work is available for purchase at my website, which is gregleach.com. And these will appear in the description of that accompanies the video. So now a couple things I forgot to do. So I'm going to get my brush clean. I need a little bit of yellow. This other piece of the logo right here at the finish line. Plus it gives it a little more pop. And then the grocery store Electra, who sponsors the polka dot jersey, has blue lettering in their logo, and actually their colors are blue and orange, and that's why those two polka dots are blue and orange. And one other little teeny thing is the bottom stripe of the bib number. Oh, and I want to add a little bit more shadow to this jersey here, just to help. So shadows, and of course, if you look in real life, shadows are, again, not black. They tend to be blue. So I want to put this in here, and that'll help pop this white sleeve away from the white wall. So there we go, that's this piece. Give us a like, give us a follow, so you can see all the painting tour paintings as they come up. And I truly appreciate you taking the time to watch.